Hi, we're Board Game Opinions. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Mark.
And we've just finished playing Bloodborne, which was Kickstarted, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When was it delivered then? Because you got it...
about a year, not far off a year ago now.
Oh, right.
A while ago anyway.
So it's been
it was
a while.
some middle of the pandemic. I can't remember. It all blurred into
Obviously,
one.
lockdown has affected how often we've been able to play this. But we've managed to play it, and it's a cooperative adventure game. Themed in the Bloodborne universe. If you're familiar with the PC game...
A PlayStation game.
Sorry, PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's trying to replicate that feeling. And can you tell us just a brief amount about the PlayStation game? Because I think it helps for the theme here.
Yeah, it's by From Software. It's by the same makers as who did Dark Souls. So it's kind of an action role-playing game. Very dark setting. It's kind of Lovecraftian-esque. It's got that gothic horror going on with monsters and stuff, and yeah, it's quite dark themed. It's not a pleasant place.
So it does feel like a cross between Dark Souls and Cthulhu or something, but it is very combat heavy, isn't it? I'll say that up front. You're spending most of this game fighting. I'll just show you quickly. It comes with lots of miniatures, so we picked a couple of heroes. So you can see this was me, and Mark was the girl with the big sword. And then you get some baddies. So in fact, those are just sort of maidens. I think you might have to save them occasionally. But here are some baddies. It is scenario based. The scenarios that we were looking at, and there's a big sort of staggy thing there. The scenarios we were playing through were all kind of church themed.
Yes, it's called the Cathedral Ward, which is placed in the game, and it's centred around that section of the actual video game.
So we'll explain briefly what's going on, and then we'll give you our thoughts on what we thought of the game. So you take a turn, and you're going to be drawing 3 cards from a deck of cards. There's a limited amount of deck building in this. It's possible to upgrade your deck and swap out cards essentially. And with your card you can do a number of things, but typically you're going to take your character and explore. So you have to discard a card to move, and if I'm going on to a new space without a tile through a doorway, you draw the next tile. And I'm going to put it this way here. So this symbol means you spawn a particular monster. Now the monsters, I'll just show you quickly here. There are like 3 monsters, and these are kind of randomly assigned each time you play. So for this particular type, this scenario, when you spawn here, we're going to get this male beast patient. So this particular monster spawns on there. You can see here he is. And this spot spawns a chest. Okay, great. So then I move on to the spot with that move. And now it's combat. So in terms of how combat works, you look at your hand of cards and you're trying to play them onto your board. So here, essentially I have 3 slots in which I can place cards, and they'll do, in my particular case, it's going to do 2 damage no matter what spot I put it on. Everybody has a flip side though. It's possible to flip this over, and you can see on this side, this one does 2 damage, but this one does 3 damage. The other thing that's important here is the speed of the attack. This is a speed 2 attack, whereas these heavier attacks are only speed 1. So I look at my cards and I decide which card I want to play. Well, this guy, if we look at him, the male beast patient has health 3, and I could do the heavy cleave, or I could do the arcing swing. But if I play this card, this is going to do 1 extra damage. So if I play it here, because I think the speed 2 might be important, I'm going to put it here to illustrate something slightly different. So I put that there, and I'm going to be doing 4 damage actually, which is more than I need. But it's a speed 1 attack. Then, no matter what enemy you're fighting, you draw cards off this enemy action deck and you flip it over, and in this case he does a basic attack. So that's what these different parts of the card on. He can do a basic attack, or you might draw a card that says special or ability. There's only 6 cards in here, so as you get through them you kind of know, always use one of his special attacks, so you're less likely to get another special attack. And each time you kind of work through, he's going to do whatever it says. So the basic attack is, it's speed 2 and he does 2 damage. So because his is speed 2, his works before mine, so he does 2 damage, but you do get a chance to dodge. So I can play a dodge card. It has to go in another slot though, so if your slots are full and they don't automatically clear, so as you play these it's just going to gradually fill up, I need to be able to play something at least speed 2. Now fortunately I left this one free, so this is now speed 2. This lets me dodge the attack because it's the same speed or faster. But also this lets me clear the slot, which means after I've played this and dodged, it goes into a discard pile, and it means that I'll be able to play more cards here on another turn. So I dodged his attack of 2, this one that he was doing up here, but I have managed to do 4, and he's dead. That's great. So he clears off the board. So you get the idea. That's more or less how combat works. And oh yes, you get XP essentially once you've done that. Now there's a timer that ticks down as you go through the game, which is important for a couple of things. Every time you hit a red spot, I'll just show you quickly here. These are the blood moon moments, which I think is trying to be thematic in terms of the game. Effectively, everything clears and all the monsters respawn. So wherever they are, where they've got to, however many you've killed, everything is cleared and everything respawns. So those are critical moments in the game, aren't they? And trying to often plan your actions around, well, we're about to have a blood moon, maybe we're best not killing this monster now because it's just going to immediately respawn. That's quite important. But also, when you want to level up, you can spend your precious XP by going to the Hunter's Dream. You're kind of removed from the board, and there's a bunch of cards. Like this is an advanced action deck, and so you can swap out cards from your deck with this advanced action. That also lets you heal all your health and refresh any abilities. You can kind of get ability cards as you go through the game that help you, but you get to refresh those. The problem is that it makes the timer tick down an extra space. So you're getting faster to the next blood moon. You're also faster to running out of time completely, which I'm presuming you just die if that happens.
Yes, the game will end. You get one more turn and then it all goes.
We never got to that point.
No.
But yes. So you're taking this risk of, if I upgrade, I'll be better for later, but we're running out of time. Is it worth upgrading at this point? So that's quite an interesting decision. Yeah, I mean, that's more or less what's going on. As I say, it's scenario based. There's a big deck of cards. I don't want to give you kind of spoilers in terms of the scenarios that you're playing through. But you obviously, it explains how to set it up. You draw the tiles at the start. You move around and explore. And it'll say, for example, in order to get the next card, you need to find this location. Maybe you need to discover the graveyard. So you're exploring until you get the graveyard tile. And then once you do it, you get to draw another card off this deck. And you do what it says. And maybe it gives you a mission. Maybe you've got to kill a monster or find a particular token, but effectively you're running around exploring, killing things, and once you've achieved all the objectives, you win, unless you die. So, what do we think?
Yeah, it goes some way to faith to replicate the video game it's trying to replicate. I think it's not. It's not wasted the IP. It does have enough similarity to the game beyond just it's in the miniatures in the way. It does feel quite gamey in the way it plays out at times. Component quality is fine. It's normal, kill me or not. It's not amazing. The boards, some of the stuff's quite thin actually, quite cheap compared to a lot of
the tokens are really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing that you flip is very thin card.
Tiles are fine. The artwork's decent. Obviously, I said the miniatures are fine. I think the best two parts of it is I do like the combat system in it. It is definitely a puzzle.
Yeah.
And especially with the people, you're optimising it, trying to work out what you can both do. You're kind of balancing out the risks of what come out on the enemy deck, which you've got a guess. Like you make an educated guess to what's most likely to happen, but unless you actually know for certain, then it's difficult. I enjoy the levelling up in this. I think as you get more powerful, you feel more powerful. Yeah. You gain all the little abilities, and you get thrown loads and loads of items throughout the game, as we've been finding. It is very combat heavy, so if you're not looking for a combat heavy dungeon crawler, which is the closest to, then this probably isn't for you. I'm not sure it does anything stand out. It's fine. I think I'm finding it a little bit monotone, as in I go somewhere and fight and I go somewhere and fight, and it's like I go somewhere and I draw a card and the chances are I'm going to have to fight again. Like something I've played this the third, not tonight, like a third campaign I've played, and while there are variations, they aren't massively like. They are generally going to involve you killing more stuff, which that's what the video game's about. So I guess I don't know what you'd expect, but I don't know if, even with the interest in the combat system, it is essentially the same puzzle again and again and again. The exploration's isn't great in this, I don't think, to balance against it. The
artwork, I'll just show you the tiles here. I think the artwork on the tiles has been very well done. But at the end of the day, essentially, so this tile here has 3 spaces. The white line separates the 3 spaces. So if you're moving across the tile, you kind of go from here to here to here. But otherwise, the tiles don't really mean a great deal. Some of them have special abilities on, so this one makes enemies slower, but a lot of the tiles are just kind of basic tiles to move through the spaces. And so, although you're drawing new tiles, there's a limited set of tiles, and it feels like once you've seen all the tiles, you've kind of seen it. You're not discovering anything new, it's just, here's another tile, and here are some more monsters. They do try and provide theme, don't they? So a lot of the cards, as you work through, provide flavour text to try and illustrate, the mission you're on. This happens, then you go here and you speak to this person. But although they've made a good effort, I think, with the text on the cards, as Mark says, you still spend so much time fighting that really the theme doesn't become that important anymore. It's like, and here's another monster to fight, and another one, and here's the boss, and you've got to fight through that. It's basically, I think, like the video game.
Yeah,
you're just fighting and fighting and fighting. It is an action game.
I think a good thing, but also a disappointing thing, is that the bosses have their own decks, which does mean the bosses have different attacks. But if you're thinking like in the video game, you're trying to learn their routines, what they do. And if you turn up a boss and it has a new set of attacks, then you're either, unless you're talking about replaying through the entire scenario again. This isn't like the video game where I die, I go back to the lamp, I then go back to the boss and fight it again. This is play it. Well, that's not true, I suppose. You don't die in this game. If you die, you just go back to Thunder's Dream and respawn. So you do kind of do that, but you're not going to get through this deck enough times to learn it, and it's too varied to learn it. And it's not like the game, obviously a video game, the point is you're looking for tells, but you can't do that. This is a random draw of 6 cards or whatever, however deep that deck is. So you lose the kind of the bit where with the enemy actions, you can kind of start making a guess what's coming up.
Yeah.
With the boss deck, unless you've really worked to learn what the cards are, you just don't have that information. So it doesn't quite feel like doesn't replicate that so well. The opposite thing is you get all the special attacks, which you couldn't do. But I don't know if I quite like I quite like actually the fact they have 3 attacks types, like the normal monsters.
Yes,
and they're weighted towards what they'd get. I don't know if I'd have preferred they'd just not had 6 different cards and just had a boss with 3 things and kept the weighting on it. I think that actually works better.
Yeah. I can appreciate they're trying to create variety here, aren't they?
But you could have a little bit of text on with those. Maybe lose the image.
Different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just about fighting, and as Mark says, I like the combat. The puzzle is interesting. Which card do I play? Because like the example I gave earlier, if I played my cards in different spots, then it probably would have gone wrong because I've only got one speed 2 slot, and if I don't dodge in that one, my dodge isn't fast enough for his attack, and so I end up taking the damage. So it's interesting, but you're just kind of doing that over and over and over and over again, which might not bother you if you like to sort of know what you know and then just do it and see all the different monsters and variety. Then that's fine, but there isn't much of a sense of adventure here, I think, is the thing.
No, it almost feels like a puzzle to some extent, just on a larger scale. This is a puzzle, but actually the whole puzzle is against the timer to do those things in time against a random draw of tiles. And so actually, in many ways, it's just one big puzzle that's themed around combat. And I wonder if that's just a bit too... It's just too much of that, rather than... It doesn't have because I don't really care what the next tile is, unless it's the tile I want to get to. You don't have that, ooh, this is an exciting room. It's just, and here's another tile. Is it the tile I'm trying to get to?
Yeah. We play a lot of adventure games, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, particularly recently we've gone through.
Yeah. And many of them kind of make an effort to vary the way that you're playing the game or things that happen or the type of interactions you have. But this one just doesn't. So I think it's a perfectly decent game, but there isn't really much variety in terms of what you're doing. So there's plenty of variety in terms of different bosses and different items and actions and things. But essentially, no matter what monster or item or whatever you're doing, you're just doing that same puzzle for attacking over and over again. Rating?
I think I'd give it a 6.5. I think it's fun. I think it's the sort of thing I'd always choose to break up into multiple sessions. I'm not sure I'd want to play a whole campaign in one go. Otherwise, I think I'd just feel a bit burnt out by the third game.
Yeah. Okay. I would also be on 6.5. That's exactly the number I was thinking of. It's decent. I'll happily play it, but as Mark says, I don't want to play it over and over again. Probably small bits here and there. Absolutely fine. All right. Well, thanks for watching. That was Bloodborne. We'll see you next time. Bye.